Thank you for joining our webinar today. I'm Cory Walters, a crop insurance specialist, still learning about insurance here at the Center of Agricultural Profitability here at the University of Nebraska. Remember to find our archive of past webinars, as well as a schedule of upcoming webinars in our Thursday series on our website at cap.unl.edu. Today, we'll discuss crop insurance reporting requirements and fraud. In an effort to detail the process and to help prevent mistakes that can lead to serious consequences if production information is misrepresented, misreported, we're going to talk with our guest today, Ross Nelson. Ross is a farmer here in Nebraska who was recently convicted of making false statements related to crop insurance. Ross, thank you for being here.
You bet.
To get started, we'll talk a little bit about insurance here nationally and also here in Nebraska. Nationally, in 2021, there was a little over $100 billion in liability and $13 billion in premium. Here in Nebraska in 2021, there's over 78,000 policies sold, over $9 billion in liabilities, over $740 million in premiums, of which $440 million were subsidies. And there was over $190 million in indemnities coming from around 11,000 policies earning premiums. In crop insurance, there's a number of players. The government is the primary player. They set all premiums and policies and do a lot of oversight. You also have the companies or AIPs. You have agents, adjusters, and then producers. The producer signs a contract, and in that contract, we typically talk about the coverage choices, such as revenue protection, yield protection, the unit structure, the coverage level. But inside of that, there's a bunch of reporting, often known as data collection by the government. And this is in relation to the acreage reporting and the production reporting. When you sign up for that and you sign your name, and I brought one of our contracts, and in that, when you sign your name, you're signing a government document. And at the very end of this thing up here, it says also, failure to provide true and correct information may result in civil suit or criminal prosecution and the assessment of penalties or pursuit of other remedies. So this can get serious. And there's not a lot of report or monitoring, because when you're writing down those yields and you're writing down that acreage and stuff, I mean, you're there to do the best job you can by yourself. Now in that, there's been plenty of other cases of fraud, and I want to discuss a few of those. You can go on to the Department of Justice Prosecution's website, and they give you some of these. Just to highlight a few. Recently, there was one for an agency who defrauded the federal crop insurance program. There was another one in Kentucky of over $2.3 million that included an adjuster. Here's a couple farmers. There's one in South Dakota at $2.8 million. There's a warehouse owner and an agent back in Kentucky, and the list goes on. And all of these have different outcomes to them with different penalties. And so with that, we're here to talk to Ross about why not to do that in your story, and what you can tell other people who are thinking about not writing down those right yields or engaging in practices that are not up to snuff that could cause you harm. And so with that, Ross, give us your story and what's happened and where you're at today, and let's walk through that.
Okay. My particular case happened in 2015. I am from a small town in northeast Nebraska. Farm a little bit of ground. Around that time, we probably farmed, 1,500 acres. Married with 4 kids. We also have custom feeding operation. But in 2015, we took on a large chunk of land, and Went, planted the crop. It looked like it was decent. We knew it wasn't great, but it looked decent. But when we went to harvest it, it was not what we needed or hoped for. And so when it came time to report bushels, I misrepresented the production on that farm, and basically lied to the insurance company. And then it was a large enough claim to require an audit, and proceeded to lie to the RMA gentleman. And so as time went on in that process, as soon as we had done that with the RMA, we tried to hire a lawyer, found a good lawyer, tried to amend the claim with the actual production, tried to pay him back at the amount between what we were actually owed and what we got paid. Did not know at that time that had we just paid the entire amount, maybe things could have been different. Maybe not, but maybe. Didn't know that if you file a false claim, it makes it void, completely void. You're not just on the hook for the difference. Like we thought you're on the hook for everything. You owe them everything back. And so we proceeded to try to amend the claim. That led into a mediation process, and trying to come together on terms didn't work out. And years went on, and as I guess it was in 2021, I was indicted for that. And then in September of 2022, I was sentenced. And they sentenced me to $1 million in restitution, $30,000 fine, community service, which this is part of, and also 16 weekends in a facility in Kearney. And yeah, it was just a long, stressful process for everybody, including my wife, and family, who had to go through all that too. So
yeah, it really unleashed a bad thing that you didn't intend to happen, but it happened.
yeah.
And of course, we're here today to talk about why your message is to not anyone who's thinking of this to what?
Well, obviously not to do it.
Yeah.
Obviously, but at the same time, people do make mistakes. If you find yourself in a position where you have made a mistake, look for help. There is help out there. It's not easy to find. And when you can't tell anybody, that's probably one of the hardest things, is who do you ask when you can't tell anybody about it? So, do the best you can, but there are people out there that are knowledgeable about this stuff. It's just not easy to find them. So it takes time, but it's worth the effort to try to find them.
And that's related to the emotional stress after being indicted, or before, when you're before all that happened.
I'm not clear on that.
Yeah. When you said find people that can help you, is that
both
on both sides?
On both sides.
Okay,
yeah.
Fair enough.
Both sides. It was tough for me, obviously, but like I said, it's probably tougher on my wife, because I had her to talk to. She didn't have anybody to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there are people out there even for that can help. And I did not seek that. I probably should have. I probably would have been better off, had I done that. And if people are having trouble, they need to do that. But also on the legal side, we were very fortunate. We found good people all the way along. But some people may not be that fortunate. And just if anybody ever finds himself in that position, that there are people, you just got to look pretty hard to find them.
Good. That's important. To your path here and why we're here today. When did you know the government knew something? Describe that chain of events?
Well, I personally think I think by the time the gentleman that interviewed me left my farm, he knew.
Okay.
I don't actually have proof of when they knew. I guess that's why we sought out the lawyer, is because that I kind of felt that way, and you just kind of, your gut told you this wasn't going to work out good, and that's the first place, is you just try to look for help. So I think that was probably the first time.
Okay. You mentioned earlier this starting 2015, and you recently found out where you're heading in life. That's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Describe that process.
Well, I mean, I think anything legal probably is a pretty slow process, understandably, but when you go through that, you're kind of held in limbo for that time. And so for you and your family and whoever, that leaves you a lot of time. You have no direction, so you don't know. Every day you try to make the best decisions you can, but you don't really know what you should be making, because you don't know where you're headed,
where you're going. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so we just did the best that we could, and like I said, we were very fortunate the way it ended up, and happy to be where we are today.
This, you mentioned earlier, you went to lawyers right away and tried to amend it, and that didn't stop it. That you weren't able to find a solution then. It took a long time afterwards. Give us some insights into that. This isn't something that just gets settled, in a couple months or something. You don't. There's another process somewhere in here that was revealed.
Well, after we hired our attorneys, did a very good job. I guess, for me, I was trying to deal with everything. So
you're farming the whole time.
We were farming on a lot smaller scale, and just, doing what we could, doing our custom feeding and just doing the best we could. And so I tried to stay out of it. I knew I wasn't, if they had questions, obviously I would try to answer their questions, but as far as any negotiations back and forth, I had no idea what was the best, alternative or outcome. So I left that kind of up to them. And we had times where we went through a mediation process, and USDA people were very, very good to deal with. They tried, I think, very hard to try to make it work. Unfortunately, like I said, at that time, the one possibility, and I don't know this to be true. I've just been told by our other lawyer that you could have maybe had that happen. If we'd offered to pay him back the entire amount, it possibly could have been resolved. I don't know that, and there's no reason to look back and worry about that, because that's not where it went. So, but then after that process of mediation, it was pretty silent. There wasn't a lot of, in fact, it was probably 2.5 years. I didn't hear anything from anyone. Yeah. And even from my lawyers. And in that time, one of our lawyers had kind of retired, and handed us off to a good person. But I guess it was probably just a gut feeling that me and my wife had that maybe this isn't the direction we wanted to head. And so we, through advice from from a reference from our banker, one of our bankers, we made a call and met with another attorney and decided to hire him. And that's when we decided to change the plea from not guilty to guilty. And then he pretty much took that process over, and I don't even know hardly any of the details about the negotiation process there. He just, did the best he could and got the best outcome he could for us. And then that was the advice we were given, is to take it, and we did it and went from there.
So during that, somewhere in there was someone had to inform you there's a chance you could go to prison.
Oh yeah, that was very early on. We knew that. Yeah.
Okay. And that had to have been a big shock.
Yeah.
To everyone, and you and your family and everyone.
Yeah. Well, I and I'm sure I'm not different from a lot of people in the fact that I did not know that. Well, even you read that statement on the policy, that example doesn't say can get 30 years in prison. I mean, so you say it says what it says on there, but it doesn't say it in that harsher terms. So it's pretty eye-opening when you know that that's
on the table.
That's on the table. Yeah. I mean, obviously, that's probably not likely that time period, but you also know that there's a very good chance that there's some time period, and you don't know what that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
did something happen that finally moved the case towards conclusion for you?
I guess really when it started to head toward conclusion is when we changed our plea from not guilty to guilty.
Okay.
And I guess I kind of thought, I don't know. I don't know what I thought at the time. That was just, we were along in the process, and we followed the best advice from people that are a lot smarter than me. And, the one thing that we did like is this attorney probably had a little bit more experience with this type of, situation. And so that, when he told us that's what we should do, we listened to his logic, and, yeah, I mean, but that was probably the real time when it changed.
So your lawyer had informed you there's a severe penalty that could happen.
Mm-hmm.
You got something quite a bit different.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you avoided going to prison for multiple years?
I've seen that as one of your questions, and I honestly, I don't know, because we weren't in those discussions with anybody.
Okay.
Those people, all I can say is that they were good to us. I mean, all the way along, from our lawyer to the probation officer, to the judge, to the prosecutor, to the RMA, to the USDA. At any point, I'm sure if they would have objected to any of this, it would have all went away.
Okay.
So I think it was probably a cumulative effort, and the only comment that the judge made was he recognized the fact that we did try to make it right, even though we didn't do it the right way, or we didn't have that figured out, but we made an attempt. And then he also recognized the fact, that it had been a while, a long process, and I think he just probably, for whatever reason, took a chance on us that he didn't have to, and so that's why we're here today.
We're here today. Yeah.
Try to prove him right, I guess.
That's right. That's right. And your message to anyone else thinking of doing this, what's your message? What's your take home message?
Well, like I said before, I was fortunate because, um, I still have what really matters. Because in the process, we paid the $1 million restitution, but you have your attorney's fees, and that adds up to a lot of money. You have the fact that, we lost a lot of money that year in 15 to begin with. And you compound all that, and, a lot of people wouldn't have been fortunate as we were, as far as we're good bankers, good people surrounding us. Bankers allowed me to do what I needed to do to position myself to do, to pay him back. A lot of people wouldn't have let us do that. And so it really was, we were very fortunate to be around a lot of good people. This puts a lot of strain on your marriage. I'm very fortunate to be married to who I am. Some people might not, it's tough, and some people might not be that fortunate. So when you're talking about the situation, you're talking about possibly trading all that for dollars.
That's right.
And I think if a person thought that through, I think most people wouldn't, go that route. It's just, when you're into it, you don't think about that. So
here we are today. You're still farming.
Yep. A
Tell
little
us
bit.
about that. Yeah. You're still going.
Yep. Small scale, doing the best we can. Still, we over the years, we increased the size of our custom feeding operation to try to balance some of the loss of income from farming. And that's been good to us. We feed for good people, and like I said, along the way, a lot of good people helped us out. We had some people that don't want to sell you seed anymore, don't want to sell you chemical anymore. That's perfectly understandable. Not sure I wouldn't have done the same thing, if I'd have been on the other foot. So I understand that totally. But we were fortunate and found good people that did,
Awesome.
So yeah, we're just trying to get on with things now that we kind of have a direction, and do the best we can.
Awesome. I like it. Yeah. Let's take a few questions. Ryan, you've been monitoring. We're going to take a few questions. Ryan, is there any certain ones there you put the cursor over? You were kind of watching those. We got one here from Paul. How is Ross doing now? That's a lot of debt to take on. Seemed like we just kind of answered that.
Yeah, that's probably a fluid situation. I mean, obviously, because our bankers have been great, but our net worth is not very much anymore, and so that puts them in a tough position. So that, I suppose, that could change at any point in time, but as of right now, we're making the payments, so we're moving forward with that. So
good. Is the one, we got another one here? Is the 1 million the entire amount, or did he get? Do you get a break on that?
I'm not quite sure what a break means. Our actual, the amount that we were paid was 700,000.
Okay.
And for what we paid, $1 million restitution, and like I said, a $30,000 fine. So that's, I don't. It wasn't a break, but it was very fair. I mean, they can fine you a lot more than that. So it was very fair what they came with. So
okay. From Randy, are you still able to get federal crop insurance?
No, I'm not, and I don't know. I'm not even clear on that exact process. But obviously we got a letter from I don't know if it was from the USDA or the FSA, and telling us we were banned from the programs, which, we understood that. And I don't know what the future holds for that, but I don't plan on trying to get back into that at all. So
Okay. Okay. What else do you see up there, Ryan? Got one here from Todd. This is looking back a little bit, but if you could go back to the start, if you could reset. Yeah, that. If you could reset, go back to the start. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Maybe we'll move to another one. This is from Mark Ross. Thank you for sharing your story. Had you seen other farmers fudging the numbers and thought maybe it might be safe to do so? Or what prompted you to do this? Anger at the government, crop insurance not paying enough? You got any insights there?
well, I think the first part of his question was other producers, what they're doing. I suppose you can, and I suppose that's maybe how you can justify it in your head as well. It doesn't matter. I shouldn't have done it because it wasn't right. So, yeah, I mean, you hear things always, but you don't know. I have no idea what's true. I don't see anybody else's papers, and that's not my concern. My concern should have been with me and my family instead of a dollar amount, and it wasn't. It was my priorities were wrong, and so yeah, you hear things, but like I said, that has nothing to do with me, and I don't know. So,
I got another one here. Did you provide documentation in your production not support the audit? So you're audited at some point. You showed your production, then you're audited, and that didn't line up, right?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah.
And then somewhere in that, when you have a loss, you're supposed to report that immediately, and then there's a whole process that starts in there. And of course, some losses you don't know till you hit the field.
Yeah.
And then there's documentation that goes all along with that. So all that was followed then. Auditors came out.
That was what it
adjusters,
was.
the adjusters came out.
Yep. And when it was time to report those bushels, I provided documentation, but it wasn't documentation of all the bushels.
Okay.
So that's all there was to it. There was more bushels than what I gave them receipts for.
Okay.
So
well, lots of questions. What else we got here? There we go. There's one from John Westra. Can you participate in any other farm programs like FSA programs?
there again, I don't know that, but I don't think so. I'm fairly certain that I cannot.
Okay.
So I think when they suspend you or ban you from them,
it's all appears to be all government programs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Got one another here, Paul. How many? I don't know if it's really acres that matters what you're farming, but Paul's asking how's the farm doing now? Essentially, you mentioned the custom feeding. You've mentioned you still got some of your own ground. You still farm, so you're still doing that. So you're still farming.
We are, and it's not much. It's a hobby. Our custom feeding is what we do for a living.
Okay.
And the farming is just what I do for fun. So we enjoy doing it, and as long as we can keep doing it, we'll keep doing it. But there might come a time when we can't. I don't know, but we'll deal with that. That's probably what got me in trouble in the first place, is worried about something that might happen, but didn't. And I should have spent more time worrying about, if you want to look at things, what could have happened. There's a lot worse things that could have happened than, losing the ability to farm. So,
in that you're meaning your family and all these other
and this, I mean, if anybody, had to choose now, would you rather go through this or would you rather have to quit farming? Well, I can say for me, I would have probably, if I didn't know if that was my only two choices, I probably would have said, okay, I'd be done farming before I wanted to go through this. So, but that's different for everybody. They got to make that decision. But I think anybody who's been around it or been through it would make the same decision. So
I agree. Yeah. After hearing this,
Yeah.
you're tough, Ross, to be here with us, to talk about this, and to keep other people from opening up this rabbit hole. With that, I think it's a good time to conclude this. Ross, I very much appreciate you coming here talking to us about this. This is an important part of these programs, something so small, that signature, that production report can unleash something very powerful. And like you made the point, would I trade my family, my farming operation for dollars? I would never do that again. Be very aware of what you're putting at risk when you're signing your name to government documents.
Yep.
I think would that be?
Yep, that's right.
Be very fair. So Ross, thank you for coming and visiting us today. It's a very powerful message. You're very strong for doing it. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Awesome, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. This wraps up our webinar today. Thank you everyone for joining us. Recording will be available, posted at cap.unl.edu, where you can also register for upcoming webinars. Next week, join us for a look at hunting leases and legal considerations that go along with allowed hunting owned on rented or ground in Nebraska. That should be fun. Thank you.